I just got out of my USCIS interview with my client, and this was their second interview. I have a good idea now as to why they got the second interview. They had told me before that the first interview, which they did not bring me to because they filed the paperwork with someone else, the first interview didn't go well in general. But the reason that they ended up getting the second interview, after having heard the testimony, they were separated for a little while, and I was there as a witness to listen to everything that they each said separately to the officer. And it came out that the petitioner had actually updated his address. He had renewed a license that he had from Massachusetts from his sister's house, even though he hasn't lived there in 3 years. So most likely that's actually the reason that they got this second interview instead of a request for evidence, was because he updated his address, making it look like he actually lives in Massachusetts when his spouse lives in Florida. So that's definitely a no-no. Don't update your address with any government agency on taxes and a W-2 or anything that the government would be able to see without with using a different address than your spouse. And then another tip that I wanted to share with you after this interview is that basically they did pretty well on the questions, except for a couple of things. And one of the discrepancies that ended up being a big deal was because they decided ahead of the interview to lie about a certain question. Now, the question was if the petitioner owned a car. And he did own a car. He actually had a car loan with another person, with his boss. But instead of just telling the truth about that, which would have been, you know, it would have been fine, they could have just explained it, they each together and separately lied about it and said that he didn't have a car and he didn't drive, which the government was able to find out he had this loan and he had it with the other person, and it looked worse, right? And then it also caused problems, and we had to try to clarify this at the end as to why they both lied about it, and then why they came up with a different explanation as to the lie. So it's also important to note that you cause the government to question if you're telling the truth about anything, if they can see that you intentionally lied to them about anything. So keep that in mind. Always tell the truth. Even if it's something that's not so favorable, always tell the truth, have a plan to tell the truth, and don't put your address in a different place than your spouse. I hope this helps you for your immigration interview.